Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And sorry you've had to be staring at our faces for the last 5 or 10 minutes. If those of you have joined a little bit earlier, as I say, welcome this afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 things that you should be doing to get ahead of your competition in 2024. Firstly, let me just introduce you to everybody here. I'll start with myself. I'm Craig, director of the ValPal Network. I then have Anthony, who's our top sales guy for ValPal, all PAL related, Move PAL, and what he doesn't know about it isn't worth knowing. Steph Rady, who's not Craig. That's not me at the weekends, by the way. That is Steph Rady is our head of PR and marketing. Also looks after all of our social media, Facebook, social and Google Ads, etc. And then we have obviously Mr. Facebook himself, Mr. Paul Long. So thank you all, everybody, for joining us today. Cool. So. Without further ado, we've got quite a few things that we want to try and get through today. So first thing we want to talk about really is, again, talking about lead generation and what we are going to be covering here. First thing is going to be really about lead generation. Second thing is going to be about lead nurturing. So what you're doing with those leads, because we've got data now that is showing just how important it is to keep on top of those leads. Don't just dismiss them if you don't get a yes immediately, what to do with them. And thirdly is a little bit about business growth, trying to just make you think about some obvious things, but sometimes things that just can easily be forgotten, which do make quite a difference. So jumping in, we've got Facebook ads. You know, are buyers, sellers, and landlords still on Facebook? Paul, obviously going to come to you for this one. Give us a little bit of an insight of what's happening at the moment on Facebook, if you would.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and thanks for allowing us to join today. So Facebook, one question I get asked is Facebook still the dominant platform, the social media platform for generating seller and landlord leads and getting in front of those people? And it's a good question because there's a lot going on at the moment with all the other new platforms coming around. TikTok, obviously one of them, but it's still the dominant platform. With regards to getting in front of the people that make decisions and property owners in 2024, it's still the dominant platform. And you can see some big numbers in front of us on the slide with regards to people between the ages of 25 and 65. Some massive numbers there. The right ages, sellers, landlords, and people buying properties. Some recent stats that I've got, which share with you guys, which I think you probably find useful to know, is that the fastest growing audience on Facebook is women who are 56 years old, and on Instagram it's the early to mid 40s. So again, it's growing in the right places. It's not just losing people. It's actually growing in the right places. Facebook is used daily 44% of the UK population, and 66% still have a Facebook account. And then the last one, which is really important, is 71% of all UK adults can actually be reached with adverts on the platform. So we've got this platform where we can get in front of the people that we need to get in front of, going back to decision makers and property owners. So a really, really powerful platform when it comes to getting in front of the right people. And lastly, 50,000 data points on each and every one of us. We still forget, Facebook has more data on consumer buying habit than pretty much anyone, just because of the multiple platforms available. So, Facebook does know who are landlords and investors. It does know who might be looking to do something in the near future, just on our behaviors on and off the platform. So yeah, still really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see that it is still, the most important thing, the most important platform. But I think one of the things that we also want to share with people is that when you are doing lead generation, you shouldn't really just be looking in one direction, right? You have to be looking around at other things, because these all enter your funnel in different points, right? So some of the other things we're going to share with you today are, and we're especially looking at because we got lots of MovePal clients, and we see that we can see the slight differences of where and how quickly people convert with different when they're coming in from different sources, and it is important that you you know, in an ideal world, budget, if budget allows, that you're doing more than one activity in order to generate these leads. Obviously, Paul, fully appreciate that Google is still one of the cheapest cost per acquisitions for leads, but we should also be looking at other things as well if we can. Steph, tell us a little bit about what we know about Google Ads.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more. In an ideal world, you would split your budget among a variety of marketing channels so that you have multiple opportunities to generate leads. And the one thing that tends to put people off Google Ads is, oh, it's so expensive. And there is a lot you can do on Google. So if you do have a lot of budget, there's lots of things you can do. But I wanted to share today some of the lower cost options that you can run on Google. So if you're not already, I would definitely consider adding this to your armory just to run a campaign to drive valuation leads. So what that means is you're bidding on less keywords and you can afford to spend less on your daily budget. And the great thing about Google is you can drive results-driven campaigns, hyper-targeted locations, and high-intent leads. So what I mean by that is, if anyone's run Facebook ads in the last 2 years, I'm sure you'll be aware about the dreaded special ad category. And now we have to target that 10-mile radius. But with Google, no such restriction exists. So we can target down to even the postcode sector, which is great for smaller agents with small patches, and particularly agents in central London. So like Facebook, everything is completely trackable on Google. So if you're driving just one version of a campaign to drive instant valuation leads, for example, you have the ability to track exactly how many leads you're getting, what it's costing you. And obviously, if those leads are converting, you can decide whether to put more money into that source of lead generation. So that's the great thing about digital marketing. Everything leaves a footprint, and everything's trackable. Another benefit of Google Ads is the higher intent leads. So what I mean by that is, rather than waving a flag in front of someone who might be interested and it might be the right time, these people are actively searching for your services. So whether they're searching to sell their house or find out how much their house is worth, your ads will appear and give them that opportunity to kind of convert with you over your competition.
Yeah, nice. It's interesting. I think we jumped to a slide a little bit early there, but the two things that we've just been speaking about there have been paid advertising, Facebook ads and Google ads, which we know work well, right? When we're talking about a question of sort of digital marketing versus versus direct mail, and whether there is still a space for direct mail. And I think something that we've done recently, we've got access to a lot more data at the moment, right, which allows us to interrogate really what's going on with the leads and also surrounding areas from those leads. And when you're doing a targeted when you're doing direct mail, if you just decide to send out 5,000 leaflets to 5,000 letterbox, 5,000 chimney pots in your area, that's kind of a scattergun approach, and you'll get some hits, but generally not a huge amount. What we can now do, though, is we can start being much more targeted with that, much more scientific with it, really, and start to target not just the ValPal lead. So somebody comes in on a ValPal lead, what we know is that generally speaking, that is probably because something has triggered it in the area, right? So a neighbor has put their property on the market, which is that sparked a bit of interest. So somebody else goes on and does a valuation. or anyone that's using ValPal at the moment will know we create something called a bonus lead. Now, a bonus lead is where somebody starts the process but doesn't finish it. They put their property details in, but don't put their personal details, don't complete it. So we still send that information of the property that we've captured, we don't know the person, just so that that agency can then send them something, send them a letter, go and knock on their door, or send them a little bit of, as I say, a leaflet letter, whatever it might be. We've now got the ability to automate that process. Okay, so if you're bonus leads, we can send a letter to the bonus lead and the neighbors, 10 up, 10 down, or 20 up, 20 down, from that bonus lead or from that valuation lead. What you're looking at here, this little image, shows the reason why. Now, you guys know this already, right? The reason why you put up your sale boards is not just to promote your business, but it's also a reason that if you're in a cul-de-sac and a property comes on the market, we know that there is a flurry of activity. That the property might not have come on the market for 5-10 years, and then one property comes on the market and all of a sudden the neighbors are thinking, oh, wonder how much they're selling their property for. Oh, I can sell my property for that. And a little bit of a snowball effect happens. This is evidence of that. Where it's marked there as a bonus lead, that was an address where a client started to do the valuation, didn't complete it. When we analysed the area around it, the two properties close to it, which fall into the 10 up and 10 down, were two properties that sold within a 6-month period of that bonus lead, or prior to that bonus lead being generated. And the two that are sold, that are further up, fall into the 2020. So you can see, if you were targeting 2020 of the bonus lead, you've got a chance of hitting 4 more properties that actually came to market within, well, that was actually within 6 months of after the bonus lead was generating. So really worth doing. Talk to us about it if you want to know any more about that. Excuse me, we'll be more than happy to let you know. And it sort of leads me on a little bit now to the data that we've been able to get hold of. We've spoken to a company called 20CI in order to get a lot of information, a lot of data, and you could tell us a little bit about that and how important it is that we can share that information for everybody.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, in terms of the data, it's something that we've wanted for God knows how many years, because ValPal has always been known as a lead generation tool. But the question probably every single one of us here get asked every day is, okay, but are these leads any good? Sort of for every business owner, that's the most important thing. So if they're spending money on marketing, they want to know whether they're going to get a return. So we've always completely understood. So that's why we've actually managed to now get this data. So the real key thing is that what the data has shown to us is actually how powerful that the leads are. And so what we know is 18.5% of all ValPal leads went on to sell last year. And to put into context, last year we helped members generate over 1.2 million leads. So that just shows the real volume of leads that have gone on to sell. So practically, we know 1 in 5 leads that do go on to convert. However, the real key thing is, a lot of the time, we actually had this conversation last week, didn't we, Craig? With what is identified is, when we've then been speaking to members, it's not that members don't pick up the phone to the leads. It's actually, as soon as the members, it's making sure that their team's members actually value the leads, and understand the journey that a lot of these leads go on, and not just ValPal leads here. Think of every single lead source that you do generate. The portal's the big bucks for leads, and a lot of the time everyone sees the data, how many portal leads you actually get responded to, leads from any other sources. There's so many marketing options out there nowadays. So I think the real key thing is making sure that their team do value the leads, because this is just data here, just ValPal alone. I'm sure other companies might have similar data. Making sure they are valued, and just because someone says, I'm just being nosy or I'm just being curious, obviously we know your team are busy, so it's not just there because they're sitting there doing nothing. But that lead doesn't mean that it's a rubbish lead. What we know, as you can see here, ValPal leads take an average between 4 to 6 months to be ready to sell. We know all that means is they're just not ready. So it's just making sure, because as it says there, local homeowner data is gold. And a lot of the time, you would have, when an agent generates a lead, you would have paid to get that lead, whether it be Painter Portals, ValPal, any other software, etc., that you're using. So it's then understand, okay, you're paying money to get that lead. It's now thinking, what are we now doing with this data to make sure when this lead is ready to do something, that is us that they think of. So that part is really, really important. Making sure that there is a process in place. We actually took it a step further for a client recently, which it might help with sort of full processes, because we thought, okay, great, 13%, so a bit under 18% of all of his leads went on to sell over a year. But we then took it a step further, said, okay, how long did each lead take? Quickest was 9 days, and he was actually running Facebook ads with Paul. So that shows, okay, there are quick wins in the Facebook ads, which is brilliant. But the longest was 9 months. So it really does show that we need to get your team to understand that okay, not everyone is going to be 9 days. When they do get them, brilliant, but there are going to be some that do take up to 9 months.
Absolutely. And look, there's some more information and more stats that we will be sharing with you guys, with anyone that's a ValPal or a MovePal client. We'll be sharing this on a monthly basis, so there's more transparency of what's actually happening with your leads, right? So what leads, the volume of leads you've generated over the last 18 months and how many of those have come to market, how many you've instructed, and how many you've maybe left on the table or missed with others. Just to give you some headlines on that, when we look at everyone as a whole, right? We're looking at around 27.48% of ValPal leads were instructed by the agent that generated the lead, which sounds great. So that's nearly 30% of all the leads. But when you also think about that 72.52% that you didn't, right? So that were left on the table. And then the vast majority of time, you're never going to win everything, right? It's, we accept that fact. But if 72.5% of the leads and the opportunities where you probably had the first opportunity, the first shout, especially if you're doing paid advertising, because we know they're generally speaking the first time they're dipping their toe in the water. But that's what I'm saying. If they don't give you a yes today, it doesn't mean no. It means no today, not complete no, right? So what you do with that data after you don't get that no. So after day one, what you do with that data will have a direct impact on how your conversion rates are going. So whether you're nurturing it, whether you have a process in place, whether you've got a system in place that can automate it or you do it manually, it doesn't matter, whatever fits your business, got to have something in place. Otherwise, you're just missing that opportunity. A few other stats. We were talking about the bonus leads earlier. For anyone that's running bonus leads with us, not 8.9% of bonus leads go on to sell. Well, it's a massive number, but they're not going to be straight away. The fact that they haven't gone on to complete the valuation tells you that they're probably even earlier than someone using a valuation tool. They're not ready. They're a little bit nervous. Don't give up on them. Go and knock on their door. Go and send them a leaflet, a letter. Start that process going rather than just, leaving them leaving them alone. And here's a really interesting fact, guys, and this is about Facebook ads, right? Because we all talk about Facebook ads as being top of funnel, right? Which they are. But this stat blew me away when we looked at this. 17.31% of Facebook leads instruct. 17.31%. Now, when we ran this stats, well, actually, I'll say Steph ran these stats, let's be honest. I was expecting, if it hit double figures, I would have been happy. I wasn't expecting it to be that high. But there's something else that appeared. That the percentage of agents that converted that had the first opportunity of Facebook leads is very low, right? Which again tells us that a lot of the time, when you're running these Facebook ads, you're just thinking, oh, I'm doing top of funnel marketing, I'm not getting a yes, therefore it's a no. Don't take that opinion. Don't take that, that make sure that you do have those processes in place. And, you'll see it for yourself if you as and when you do that. Okay, so that sort of leads us into the nurturing of leads and the follow-up of leads. And Steph, I'll let you chime in here a little.
Yeah, so obviously we all can appreciate the value of automation. Nothing's ever going to take away you needing to pick up the phone, but there are loads of things you can do to stay in the front of your leads' minds. So as part of MovePal, we do have automated email and SMS campaigns that go out specifically to vendors and landlords. I'm not going to talk about that right now. What I am going to talk about is something you can do pretty much for free that will keep your leads engaged with you on a regular basis, and that is sending email newsletters. So the great thing about sending email newsletters is, like I said, it doesn't cost you anything to do. You've got their email address already. So then you can take that opportunity to do what we say with every type of advert, which is lead with value. It's all well and good saying how great you are, but if you're not giving them something that's going to entice them to keep looking at you, they're going to go away. So sending useful and educational content in newsletters is really, really valuable. So I'm talking things like market updates, what they can expect if they were to put their property on the market right now, stats from your area. All of this stuff looks really, really good to prospective vendors and landlords that you're going to work with. It's also a really great way to really quickly engage with people that you haven't spoken to in a while and turn old contacts into new business opportunities. This would also be a great place to include any testimonials and case studies, which I'm going to touch on a bit more in detail a bit later. And also share your property listings, because I know if there's one thing that agents are needing at the moment, it's buyer leads. So make sure you include your featured property of the week, featured property of the month, whatever you're going to do, how often. Don't rely on the portals to get your inquiries. Re-engage with your data and make sure that they know what you've got on the market.
When you think about just to add to that, when you think about the content that you're putting out there, right? As Steph was said, you've got to lead with value, right? If you're talking about you, that's branding. If you're talking about the client's wants, needs, something that they are going to value that's not talking about you, that's what you need to be doing. That's what Steph's driving at here in order to get that interest. Otherwise you just become one of another bit of marketing material that's landed on their doorstep. Now once you do get this interest, there are certain things. Speed to lead has always been a thing that we bang on about this all the time. You know, Paul, you've got your own agency, right? Tell us what you guys do within your own agency to make sure that you're covering these points off.
Yeah, so speed to lead, just to highlight how important it is. First of all, again, obviously it's obvious you got to get to that person as quick as possible, but with Facebook leads and online valuation leads, it's even more important because often the time they aren't actually looking for you. They're just on Facebook, and all of a sudden they see something that is a bit of interest. So actually getting to them whilst they remember what they were doing and online, and not the next day, because no one remembers what they did on Facebook the day before, is so important. And some stats on this that have come out support that. So the odds of converting a lead are pretty much 21 times higher within the first 5 minutes compared to 30 minutes. Which is unbelievable. But also, you've got an 80% more of a chance of converting a lead, if you get to them in the first 5 minutes as well. So just those stats on their own show how important. And as you move away with time as well, the chances really, really do drop hugely. So one of the things that you've got to be looking at is how can you get in front of those people that quickly, because it's not always possible. So this is where in our business and in other agents' business, you've got to be looking at automation as well as the phone calls, because there's going to be times where you just can't get to that person. It'll be out of hours, you're out on a viewing appointments, the phones are going mad. You need that automation, because that will delay the amount of time that you can get back to them. There'll be some engagement there. There'll be a level of contact. So having sort of text messages, emails, automate, going out straight away with an automated system, something like ValPal, of course, which we use, makes a big difference, because of course you can start that engagement even when you're not there or not available, but you can delay that time a little bit longer as well before you can get to them. The other things that we look at is that, by sending out emails and text messages, you are actually making it a lot easier for someone to hit that reply button, to text back or to email back. It's another direction of communication which people are used to, and it's increasing the levels of making it easy for them to get back to you. Not actually having to pick up the phone to call you back. There's an email there that you've just sent to them, perhaps giving a bit of value, and then a simple call to action. If you do need help, hit reply, I'm here. Those things make it very easy for someone to start communicating with you. And not everyone on that first touch wants a phone call. Some want to text, WhatsApp, email. So having a look at in your business where what you are putting out and what suits that person who's getting that communication. So yeah, that's some of the things that we do, and then I think someone touched on it already with the speed to lead. Once you're on there, I think it was you or Steph just said, it's about staying in that conversation as long as possible. So once you do get hold of them, it's looking at that lead in the right way. They're not all going to be ready straight away. It's actually having those conversations which start a conversation and start building a relationship.
Yeah, something that we're looking at ways to improve this. I mean, we've got an add-on called Connect now, which can make the phone ring. So, it's not right for every client, but for some clients it works really well, where an inbound lead comes in and it makes a phone call, a phone ring, so a dedicated phone or a mobile phone, and announces the call. That gets the speed to lead going, getting there quickly. You appreciate the fact that that's not right for everybody, but it's certainly something that is available now. And what's around the corner, look, the landscape's going to be changing, and it's going to be changing pretty quickly, right? With AI and with GPTs, it's all going to start changing. So we're already working on certain things. We've got like a property description AI. We're working on ways of helping the lead get from inquiry to much more qualified. We could talk about that on a completely separate webinar, to be honest with you, and it's something that we will do, because it's a moving landscape, that and it's stuff that we're still working on. But as you said, Paul, the speed to lead, what you say on the lead on that call is also vitally important. And we have this a lot when we're talking to agents, and we ask them. We sometimes do mystery shots as well to find out what people are actually saying, or what the neg is saying, or the agent is saying. It's so important, isn't it?
I think so, and I know you'll touch on this in a bit, but the conversation start is just so important. It is a case of building a relationship. That's how it's viewed. We're often, the first thing that said is, do you want a valuation, which is not a way to build a relationship. But one more thing before you move on to obviously covering what to say on the call is I think also the number of times it actually takes to get hold of a lead. That is a big one as well, which is often forgotten. And most agents do think that one time is enough.
Can I just quickly add something just before we go on to this part? So, sorry guys, just because I thought of something in terms of, just because where you said, Paul, it's understand not every single time someone's going to be ready to do something straight away. In that follow-up, exactly that Steph was showing, also think that just because you're sending out emails to your database, it doesn't always have to be about property. They're in your local area. You're going to know what's going on in the local area, whether it's a local fete, local fair, something going on, whatever it is, something going on in the local community. So also use that to your benefit. You probably post about it a lot of the time on social media. So a lot of the time also think about, okay, how else could that be translated to our database? Because then it's still branding. So use everything to your advantage. Just because you send out an email doesn't mean it has to be about property. It could also be about interest rates, mortgage rates. That's probably one of the most topical things right now. So think of when you are thinking, okay, what should we send out to our database? Don't always think property related, because that isn't the only thing that they're interested in. So also think, how else could you be, again, different to what other agents are doing?
It's a really good point, because we see the data on the posts that get the most engagement, and agents often ask me, Paul, what post gets the most reach and engagement for free? Well, every time it's that local community content, for brand awareness and free exposure.
I actually remember, I can't remember who it is. I'm trying to rack my brains on who it was, but I remember there was one agent that done social media posts, and they were essentially restaurant reviews that they used to do, and he just used to drop his name into it. But it just, do one of those a week, and it's just kind of being a bit different and a bit interesting, and it's, make yourself stand out a little bit, from the crowd, I guess.
Yeah, spotlights on local businesses are a great one. What it does as well is it helps you stand out from the corporate agents, because none of them do that at a local level.
No, indeed. Look, we've got a list of and I'm certainly not going to go through these right now, and you probably couldn't see them anyway because it's a little bit too small, but there's, if you want to this like crib sheet that we give away, PDF on things that you should say to improve the conversations that you're having with leads, just jot down yes in the comments box, and we'll make sure that we send them over to you. But they're really useful. Some of them you're going to know, some of them are obvious, but some of them you might just think, oh, I'm not doing that, probably should be doing that. It's just good to have. You can laminate and give them so that they stay on your negs desks and things like that. So always useful to have. So just really want to very quickly, mindful of time, don't want to keep you guys too long, but there's one thing that I just wanted to talk about, and that's business growth, staff training, expectations, right? And a lot of this is really just wanted you to think a little bit about what's happening in your business as your business grows, right? Because when you start your business owner does everything, speaks to clients, does the prospecting, goes out to do the valuations. They're doing everything, and as you get busier and busier, so you go further towards the back of the office, and as you go further towards the back of the office, you recruit new people to sit in the front of the office. And we expect that neg is going to be as good as you. And they're never going to be, right? Because they don't have your experience, they don't have, they don't have the passion, and let's face it, they don't have. It's not their pound note that's in the game. It's their skin is not in the game. Yours is. So making sure that your team that are making these calls, right? Because if you gave to a client, if you gave a neg 10 people to call, and you had another 10 people to call, I will guarantee you that you will have a better result than the neg, than certainly an untrained neg. So you've got to think about that, and think about what's your expectations of your staff, and are you giving them everything that they need in order to be able to achieve your expectations. So just make sure that you think about that as well when you're, as you start to do well. Pre-framing and retargeting, just like Amazon and eBay and Amazon. Paul, we've talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah, and it's something to think about in your business, because this is something that really can't be ignored anymore, because the way the moving journey starts now, and also probably for landlords as well when choosing an agent, it's starting so much earlier, and it's often starting online. So we have now got sort of that period of time where people are thinking about moving or choosing an agent even, and we don't even know about it as agents, because they're looking online at properties on the portals to see how much an extra bedroom would cost. They're going on doing their research of mortgages on mortgage calculators even before they speak to an agent. And a long time ago they couldn't do all that, so they would come to you right at the beginning to get advice on all those bits, but now they can start a lot earlier. So we've got this golden opportunity of time to pre-frame people, and that's where that word comes in. And companies like eBay and Amazon do this really well with their retargeting, but pre-framing is pretty much changing people's opinions and feelings about you and your brand before they've even had a chance to meet you. And that's by putting certain messages in front of those people during that period. And Facebook and also the other online platforms, through retargeting in particular, allow you to do this with certain messages. So very similar to the messages that Steph has mentioned, you know, educating people, putting content back about the brand, you know, what makes you different compared to other agents, case studies, reviews, and there's ways you can do this online, but really this is going to benefit you hugely, you know, going forward. If you can tap into that period of time, months, that we know from the online valuation tools that we've already discussed, we've got those a lot of people who do something later on. If you can tap into that time with people seeing your content and specific messages, you can really come out of it in a good place, because when someone calls you out eventually, and you'll probably be one of the people because you're going to be top of mind, but when they do call you out, they will have seen all those messages and marketing material about you, and they're not just making their decision on which agent to use by fee. They've got other aspects to make that decision on. Yeah,
and if you think about the way that you buy anything, right? We buy anything online at the moment. We always look for a review. I mean, I know that I do that personally, and I know certainly my kids do. I've got 24 and 23-year-old kids, and they will not buy anything without checking a review first, right? So, you know, reviews, case studies, you know, Steph, they're just so important, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to tell people how important reviews are, because that's standard now. But what I can tell you is how to take it a step further. So with case studies, this is essentially going to take your marketing to the next level. So what I mean by that is, by evoking the power of storytelling marketing, you can add more to the picture. So it's all well and good having a vendor who you've worked with excuse me, leave you a review saying that you did a fantastic job, but actually adding to the story there is going to resonate with more people and build trust. And that's really important with your brand, because obviously you want to build trust with the local community and people who might potentially work with you. So how can you add to a testimonial? How can you build a case study? I'd definitely start with the background. So was this property on with another agent? Did the vendor or landlord have a negative experience previously that you were able to turn around? And if you don't have any background like that, then you can go straight into what you did well, i.e., how many viewings you had, how many offers, was there an open day, how long did it stay on the market, did it sell or let particularly quickly, did you achieve market value or even above the asking price? So all of these things are going to not only tell a story and build trust with your brand, but any vendors or landlords that are looking at potentially working with you are going to say, yeah, that's the agent I want to work with. They've just done this with this house down the road from me.
Can I just, Craig, add two things that Steph said, which I think is really important, is, you know, putting as much information in there, rather than just putting a review out there and actually putting a case study behind it. It allows people to connect as well. So if you think about it, if you actually do a bit of a case study and you explain who you helped and the situation they were in, if I'm that person or very similar, you know, perhaps I'm downsizing and moving to the coast, and that's mentioned in the case study or review, all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, that's me, and they've helped that person. So there's so much power behind that, and you know, also it shows your worth. You know, that's the other thing. I think but most people think agents all do the same thing, and we're always saying we've sold this, we've sold that, but unless we're actually putting a case study behind it, we're not actually justifying our worth. You know, why are we worth more than the other agent? So the case studies are so powerful, and reviews.
Yeah. Just before we go on to the next one, I just want to cover off a question that Jeff has asked, and that's that Google is telling him that the amount that he needs to spend per day is £150 a day. What I would suggest, that sounds ridiculously high. On the next slide, actually, you're going to have contact details for all of us. If what I would ask you to do is just drop Steph a quick message, and Steph will reach out to you and have a little chat with you about that. and she'll be able to give you some advice on that.
Yeah,
sure.
I'd take everything Google says about budget with a bucket of salt, to be honest. At the end of the day, they're a platform there to make money, so they're going to want you to spend more. But with the right keyword research and targeted and focused campaign, you can get really good results for as little as £10 a day. Now, one thing I will say that Jeff was spot on about is it's not going to be as cheap as Facebook, because Facebook is the lowest cost form of online marketing, but you have the benefit of, obviously, the leads in theory should be higher intent on Google.
Guys, listen, thank you very much for joining us today. Please also, what I would ask before you all go, if there's anything that you want us to discuss, anything you want us to build a webinar around, please just drop it in the comments section. We are thinking about AI all the time. Maybe that floats your boat as well. If it does, drop it in there just so that we know we're on the right track. We don't want to do a webinar about something that you guys aren't interested about. Basically, we do want to focus on things that are of interest to you. You've got the contact details of everybody on screen at the moment. If you just want to send a generic one, then please use teams@valpal.co.uk, or any of those telephone numbers will be fine as well. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you and see if we can help you further. Thank you very much indeed, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.